Hi everyone, welcome to tutorial number 6 on how to use Code Snap 2600 to create mini games for Atari 2600. Let's continue from the previous tutorial so we can load it. As said previously, you can find the tutorial to load on the itch.io page of the tool. So let's open it. So this is the previous the code for the previous tutorial. Let's try it. So essentially we have player moving with some animation, vertical movement from the player for the player, and of course I need to touch it. So when the enemy is hit, we have an effect and sound. So today we are talking about microkernels. So this is a little bit more tricky. But I think it's important because we can have multiple players on the screen. So in Atari 2600, in theory, we can have 2 sprites on the screen, maximum. But we can create these microkernels. So for essentially initialize the 2 players in a vertical area, then create a new one, a new section with other players with different position, and then we can create multiple sprites on the screen. So as indicated previously, we have to be very careful because if I add another kernel, so you see this use 86 lines, and the scoreboard here, maybe let's use another scoreboard, a single one, because I like it more. It and increase only the scoreboard will increase only value. So let's just try to see if it works. Okay, I have a single scoreboard. Now it should increase value. Okay. So as we said, we want to create another microkernel with different players here. So I go to kernel and I create a new one here. It starts with 94. So if I try to run this, the game will not work. So this is because the total amount of lines I can use is 94. So this use 8, so 16 divided by 2, 8. This is 86. So I can, for example, do 78 and 8 should be working. Let's try. No, maybe too much. Sometimes I need to remove one additional line to make it working correctly. Okay, so essentially we're keeping 8 lines on the bottom for something else. Okay, now I can reconfigure the player. So the player is configured here in the blank section where we say how the player moves and if what are the bitmaps for a player and so on. So, but we can reconfigure the player here. So, for example, I can say the position. So let's use new variables. So player 1, say 1x, and another one for 1y. So this will be the new position of this player on this bottom area. So the player will be disabled here. So we enable only one player, so player 1, and will be player 1, 1. This is the position, vertical position. Because it's only 8 and the sprite is essentially 8 pixel, so we can set this variable, the 1y, to 0. So we'll use the entire area available. Then we need to position to give a X position. For this, unfortunately, we have to do it here because in this visible area, the position has already been set. So I have to go to where I set the position So I set a position in prepare a horizontal position of player. So let me copy, duplicate it, and we'll put it here. And it will be 1, 1, 1 underscore 1. And let's say what position. So if I duplicate this, 1, 1x would be position, I don't know, 80. Would be like around here. So then I can change the color. Ah, yes, of course. When I set the horizontal position, because I will do only this player, I will have again to apply horizontal move. Every time I do a sequence, I need to apply horizontal move. And then I can, I don't know, change the color of a player. So a player color is here. We found also here. So let's duplicate this. Move bottom. I put here. And let's select a color. I don't know, it's red. It's already copied when I click on it. So, and I set this. Okay. The calculation we have made before, so for the line, is now again incorrect because this section is using other lines. Probably 2 lines should be okay. So let me try this. Same issue. So let's remove 2 lines from here. We go, sometimes we need to try a few values. And this works. So the, yes, one problem. So as you see, there is another player here, but is not moving, but is animating. This happens because the animation is still happening every time for both players. And also, I forgot to reset the color. The color is in init. So if I copy this, put at the beginning of the blank. So this means that every loop, the color will be reset to white. So every loop will have the color of this player set to white here. Then we reach the visible area. And then for this microkernel of 8 lines will be reset to this red. So if I try again, now the player is white and the player in this small area below is red. So let's change the bitmap of this one. So let's do something different. So let's call it player 1 second bitmap, something like that. And I'll change completely the shape like this. Copy that one. Copy that one. Then I will have to duplicate bitmap. So as we saw before, there is the one that set the bitmap for the player. So we duplicate. And we position here. Okay, so now this player should have a different sprite because we draw the first one, then we set different color, different position, and different sprite. Okay, now we can generate, compile. So as you see, this player has the animation, the second one has not. And we can change more. So let's go here and set player 1 here to, I don't know, 3 copies or 3 copies, that one. So generate, and we have 3 copies. Of course, also this is 3 copies because I forgot to set back to 1 when in the next loop. So I have to duplicate this. I can go on the blank of any position, like here, it's fine. Before I am drawing the actual player 1, and then I set to normal. Okay, now a player one is a single one, and we have 3 copies. Because we have multiple options for the copies, we have 3 close, for example. So let's try this. Can be used to set the life for player. I can add also player 2 here in theory, like with the same bitmap, and have up to 6 in total. So let's say we can have 6 lives, and then we change slowly. Let's say just moving to 2 close copies. This will make similar, disappearing the third one. Then I do 1 copy, and I have only 1. So essentially I need just to add the logic to switch when life is, when the player loses life, to change from 3 close copies to 2 close copies to 1 copy. And then I can use the second player to create additional 3 and do the same thing. So the thing here is scoreboard is part of the microkernel, use 8 lines. Every microkernel has essentially 94 double lines. So these use 16, so essentially use 8 of these double lines. Because here I use 8 of these double lines, I need to decrement the previous value that was 84 by 8. But then I have to remove also an additional, some additional lines also to consider these work, because setting the player position, that one, take an additional line as well. So we have maybe to do a few tests. So if I go 77, okay, this still works. Okay, so we can try. If you want to use less, you can try until roughly. So you consider that you're using 8 plus 8 here, and because the kernel is 94, you remove 16, and then from that you can decrease a little bit more if the screen is doing this. So 77 is working. And also, one thing we can check is if we press Alt-I, we see the lines. So it's actually not really working correctly, because this value should be 262. In fact, we saw a strange effect at the beginning. So let's try 76. Okay, in fact, it was not actually correct. Let's try again 75. So this seems correct. And if I press Alt-I, I see 2062 lines. This is the correct number. So we need to check always when we do some changes to be sure that we are not using more lines than we need. We should check with Alt-I button how many lines, and they should be always 266. It will 62, and will be, even if I use less, still fine, will work. Use less space, so this red one is up a little bit higher in position because of this block use less lines, but it's still 262. So as long as you use less on the total, it will work. So for as I mentioned, for the microkernels, there is a specific area in the manuals that explain how these rows are working, but we have to decrement the number of scan lines depending on how many microkernels we are using. So this could explain how this thing works. Essentially, the logic is that we can have more than 2 players on screen in this way. And maybe one trick that could be useful when you have a screen like this, to make disappearing player, is sufficient to make it going after the maximum line. So if a coordinate y is 70, the player will not be visible. Still there, but not be visible. It's not appearing in the next block. This one starts at 8 because this block is has a size of 8, so it starts at 0. So if we go below that, will disappear as well. Okay, I think it's okay for this tutorial. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.